Yep.
Okay, so this is my nature interpretation program, and we're in the perfect setting for what we're going to be talking about. I wanted to point out that as you guys walked in separately and not all in one big group, and that was helpful for the natural environment because the big group wasn't moving through and destroying big plants and stuff like that. It was like everyone was spread out and there was minimal damage to the natural environment. Also, I wanted you guys to try to do your best to utilize the leave no trace policy, which is basically take nothing but pictures, leave nothing but footprints. So I'm going to be passing out pamphlets and flyers, so don't leave them behind because that'd be littering. Be careful, be wary of the shrubs and the plants and the natural life, the burrows and such. Try not to destroy anything. Also, don't climb on or hang on or anything, any of the trees. It's fine to pick up fallen leaves and branches and such like that, but they should be placed back where they were found so that they can be used by the natural environment later because they are a part of the ecosystem. Also, we are in the desert, however, it has cooled down, so I just wanted to let you guys know that feel free to take water breaks if you need them. Compliments of Haley, we have a couple bananas if you guys are feeling weak in the knees. Have some bananas. And let's see, it's kind of evening, so I'm not too worried about sunblock, but I do have some if you need it. And also be mindful of the critters. We've already seen bunnies and chickens and stuff, so just be wary of those. Also holes or imperfections in the landscape that might be hazardous for you to fall or anything. There is a first aid kit on site if anybody happens to need one, so just let me know. Otherwise, the goals and objectives for this program will be for you guys to be able to identify a Joshua tree quickly and efficiently. Do any of you guys know already what a Joshua tree is? Haley.
Joshua tree is something that lives in the desert.
Okay, what does it look like?
It looks like basically a tree but with pointy ends.
Okay, and is there anything else that distinguishes it from other trees?
The green branches on it are pointy compared to other.
It's very angular, it's big, its arms stick out, right?
It's crazy.
It's crazy, yeah, good. Okay, also, I'm hoping that you'll all be able to understand the coexistent relationship between the yucca moth and the Joshua tree, which I'll be going into later. Also, you'll know the blooming patterns of the Joshua tree because I'll inform you of it. You should have a broader understanding of the ideal habitat for the Joshua tree, and you should be able to identify blooms, seed pods, and seeds. And also, make sure you pay close attention because there will be Joshua tree trivia at the end of the program in which you'll have the opportunity to share your knowledge with everybody, answer some questions, such like that. Okay, I guess that sums up the introduction. Can anybody else point out a Joshua tree in the environment around us?
This is the one in front of me.
Okay, there's one there, there's one over there, and there looks to be a chopped down one in this area. So that's, oh, there's another one over there. So this is depicting over here actually how humans have been degrading the natural environment and kind of ruining Joshua trees, which is actually against the law in the state of California, and I'll go into that later. Haley already explained what distinguishes it from other types of trees, and she explained that you can tell it was a Joshua tree because it's pointy, it's angular, it's big, it's crazy looking, and so you can obviously tell it's not a pine or a redwood tree. We're actually here filming in the lovely desert town of Palmdale, and believe it or not, Palmdale was named because of Joshua trees. The earliest settlers that came into Palmdale were told to travel west until they saw palm trees, and then they'd be in the ideal settling place. Well, not having pictures and relying solely on what they were told, they mistook Joshua trees for palm trees. Yes, tells you the caliber of people that live in Palmdale. Anyway, they were German settlers, and they named it Palmenthal, which in German means Palm Valley, after what they thought were palm trees, but they were really Joshua trees. So it morphed and kind of became more Americanized over the years and was turned into Palmdale. now that you all kind of have an idea of what you're going to be looking at, it basically has pictures of Joshua trees, blooms, thank you, seed pods, seeds, everything, and some of the main facts that we're going to be going over. And since now you know that we're going to be going over the Joshua tree, I'm going to have you flip to that flat page of paper and unscramble some of the key words that will be appearing throughout the program. They're on the flat page, not the pamphlet. And there's a couple scrambled up words. And see if you can do it collectively, you can do it on your own, however you want. And there's clues next to each scrambled word. Blue. Good job. Hi.
Hey, Stephen, get down.
Get down.
Seeds.
Haley, come on.
Lucky. Lucky.
Ready?
Stop.
Perennial.
Yes.
That's a very good scramble.
Very efficient. We're good
Go
to
there, I could get everybody.
We just scramble.
Okay, we got him.
Okay, you want to scramble all of them?
Yeah.
Okay, now what's important about the yucca moth? Does anybody know before I go into the details?
Pollinates the Joshua tree.
Yes. How did I know that? Great. Okay, and what's important about the blooms?
Without it, we couldn't get the seeds.
Great. And the seeds? What's their role? Good, Haley.
They sprouts out of Joshua tree will eat.
Good. And what does perennial mean?
Year round.
They exist year-round, although they only bloom in springtime. And then, of course, the last word was Joshua tree, which is what we're learning about. Okay, so the Joshua tree belongs to the yucca genus, and it's actually part of the broader lily family. It's the larger of all the trees in the yucca genus, and it can grow between 15 and 40 feet tall. The tallest one is approximately 40 feet tall, and it's actually in Joshua Tree National Park, and that's the tallest recorded Joshua tree. Another interesting fact is that the Joshua tree was named by Mormon pioneers. There was a band of Mormon pioneers that were traveling through the Mojave Desert, and they thought that the Joshua tree looked similar to the biblical figure Joshua in the verse from Joshua 18 in the King James Version of the Bible. The verse depicts Joshua kind of raising his arms up towards the city of Ai before battle, and he had a spear in his hand. And to them, the Joshua tree looked like Joshua from this Bible verse, especially with the pointed tips and the spear. And so they named it the Joshua tree. That's kind of a darker version of the story because he was going off to battle. And so some people wanted to lighten up the story, and they kind of claimed that the limbs of the Joshua tree were waving the Mormons on and directing them westward as like a sign from God that they were in the right place to settle and such. Yes, well, thank you for your input. Okay, so some old day uses. The Joshua tree leaves were used for hygienic purposes such as soaps, detergents by the Kahilla American Indians. They were also used for food. They used to roast the blooms over fire because it would extract the sugars and caramelize them, and they were desserts. They also roasted the seeds and ate them as snacks, or ground them and cooked them into kind of patties. In the early mining days, especially in Joshua tree, the trunks were used as lumber and fencing, carts, stuff like that. And also Joshua trees have red dye in their roots, and it was extracted to dye clothing, baskets, stuff like that. And the leaves are so tough that they can be woven into baskets as well as sandals. The current use is it's mostly a home for critters. It's highly protected because of its important role in the desert habitat, and because of that fact, it's not used for soaps or food or clothing or anything like that anymore. But it does play its important role in providing a home and shelter for dozens of different small desert animals and insects. Some scientists go as far as to call it like a mobile or a living hotel, because so many different types of species thrive in the Joshua tree. Another notable thing that we talked about was kind of the importance of the yucca moth and the existence of the Joshua tree. And basically the Joshua tree can't exist without the yucca moth, and the yucca moth can't exist without the Joshua tree. And it's one of the most notable examples of coexistence in nature today, and it's one of the most studied also. The Joshua trees need the moth to pollinate and to spread it around so it can thrive and survive. And the yucca moth has their babies in the pods, and the pods protect the babies from the harsh elements. They can eat the seeds until they're ready to leave and grow, and so they completely rely on each other. Let's see. Okay, as we've probably already established, the ideal habitat for the Joshua tree is what?
Desert.
A desert, right. It's the dry, arid,
High desert.
high desert. Yes. I believe, aren't there some in low deserts? Do you know that answer?
I haven't seen any.
Okay, so high deserts. Also, they only grow naturally in 4 states, which are California, Nevada, Arizona, and Utah. There is a map in your pamphlet if you want to see the area. The desert climate's extremely dry and arid, and it has extreme cold and extreme heat. And extreme cold actually helps the Joshua tree thrive because the cold freezes off the old blooms and pods and such and allows for regrowth. So it acts as a natural pruning process. Joshua trees don't require much water, and if there are Joshua trees on your property, kind of like the ones that we're surrounded by now, they shouldn't be watered. They get enough water from the natural habitat, and if you overwater them, they're too heavy. The softened dirt will actually cause them to topple and die. So you're not supposed to water Joshua trees if you come across them in nature. Also, their blooms are obviously, they look like flowers. They're sort of a greenish, creamy type of flower. There's a picture, I'm not sure if it's your pamphlet or your flat paper, but there's pictures of blooms. And then their pods are also greenish yellow. They're fleshy and soft initially, but they dry hard, kind of brown and tan. And then the seeds inside the pods are flat and black. They bloom in springtime from approximately March to June, and they just erupt in these yellowish blooms, and they're actually kind of pretty. But something that's interesting is that although Joshua trees are well known in the desert, they're actually becoming less prominent, even than they were a few decades ago, especially in Joshua Tree National Park because of its location in comparison with Los Angeles. Because of the lay of the land and how it's located east of Los Angeles, a big portion of pollution ends up going over to Joshua Tree Park, and the shrubs thrive on the pollution. They eat it up, they overgrow, and then desert fires, which are normally manageable, grow out of control and destroy the Joshua trees.
So pollution's like crack for desert parks.
Yes, pollution is yes. And yeah, these fires just become disastrous, and they're killing the Joshua trees, which would normally be able to brave a smaller fire. In addition to pollution, there's the human factor involved in the decline of Joshua trees, as we can see right here. Some people came in, chopped the tree down so that they could build a bike track, and well, now we have a dead Joshua tree. Also, they graffiti them, they damage them. There's paintballing, motorcycle rides, development, all sorts of desert areas that are developed, and the Joshua trees are chopped down so homes can be erected. But because of this damage to the trees, there are preservation measures in place to protect the trees for animals and for future generations to be able to experience. Every city and every state has their own set of rules as far as preservation, but here in California, cutting down, damaging, or watering a Joshua tree is actually punishable by law. People can be fined, given legal warning, or in extreme cases of repeat damage, spend time in jail. Here in Palmdale, the laws regarding Joshua trees mean that they are included as part of the development plans. Builders have to leave 2 Joshua trees per every square acre when they're developing as a preservation measure in trying to save as many Joshua trees as possible. The ones that they do pull out, oftentimes they're required to transplant and hope that they survive. And that's pretty much sums up everything about Joshua trees. In your pamphlets, there's pictures of seeds, seed pods, stuff like that. I was hoping we could see some out here, but there's not really anything to show for. Yeah, they're all fallen. So I did include imagery in your papers. And I think now that leads us into the activities on the flat pamphlet. I'm going to have Keely help me out with them. Okay. So we're going to do Joshua Tree trivia. So were you guys paying attention?
Yes.
Yes? Are you sure?
Yes.
You think you can answer these questions?
Of course.
Okay. So, let's see. Can someone tell me how to identify a Joshua tree quickly and efficiently? What lets you know it's a Joshua tree?
Look, these spines hurt when you run into it.
Okay.
It doesn't look like any other tree.
Doesn't look like any other tree.
It's spiny and awkward and irregular.
It has big seed pods.
Yes, it does have big seed
Crooked
pods.
arms stick out.
Yes, angular arms. Great. Okay. Can someone explain the coexistent relationship between the yucca moth and the Joshua tree?
It's completely codependent.
Yes. Do you know how it's codependent?
The yucca moth depends on it to lay its eggs in the seed pods so its babies can eat it, and when they grow, well, they're old enough.
Yeah, and then they survive. And then the yucca moth does what to the Joshua tree?
Pollinates.
Perfect. Okay, and when do Joshua trees bloom?
In the spring.
Great. What is the ideal habitat for a Joshua tree?
Desert.
Yes, and we got that fact added in. What do the blooms look like?
They're greeny, cream, pink. Greeny, cream, fleshy.
Pink.
I'm thinking fleshy.
The pods are fleshy. Oh, you're such a doctor. Okay. What do now the pods? What do they look like when they're fresh?
They're kind of fleshy.
Okay.
They're yellow.
And then as
Yes.
they dry, they get kind of tan yellow.
Yes. Okay, and what do the seeds look like?
Black.
They look like black, kind of like
They're flat black.
chips, like poker chips.
Yes.
Only they're thicker.
Yes. And what did early settlers in Palmdale mistake Joshua trees for? Palm trees. Palm trees. Okie doke. Well, that wraps it up. I hope you enjoyed the program. We're still out here in the wild, and so I'm going to have you guys be wary of your surroundings as we make our way back out. Also, I'm going to leave time for Q&A, so if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask me. If not, we'll wrap it up. Anybody have any questions, comments, additions to the program?
If you live around these Joshua trees and they're in your yard, how do you treat them properly?
You don't water them. If you wish to remove them, you can obtain a permit as long as there are still 2 on your square acre of land. Don't cut them down, don't beat them, don't put a target on it and have BB practice. And yeah, any other questions?
Don't water them so they fall in
Don't
cars.
water them so they fall in your car. Yeah,
That happened to
That-
her sister.
that happened. This is real life, guys. So don't water them.
There's an example of an empty seed pod.
That's what the seed pod grows on. Where do you think it is? Pick it up. Teachable moments, guys. Teachable moments. Yes, those are what the seed pods fell off of. That is the branch that the seed pods grew on and fell off of. So,
But we
A plus.
don't see them because as soon as they fall down, the animals.
yeah, they're a valuable part of the ecosystem, and they eat
Animals
them.
eat
They use them for nests, snacks.
You mean you're not supposed to pick the neighbors with them?
No. No.
Good to know.
Yes. Any other questions, comments? No? Great. All right, that wraps up the nature program. Hope you guys enjoyed it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
you.
Clap. Everybody clap. It's
Woo!
okay. Okay.
Hi.
Cool.
I'm sorry. I used to slap on you.
And
Right.
Go back to sleep now.